What's up, Gator Nation? Welcome into the latest Gators Online show. Zach Albaverdi, Nick Del Toro here. And Nick, we got him in the state of Florida before he leaves. He is on his way to Clemson today as the Gators make a super regional. And we'll get into that today. We'll also give a shout out to the softball team for a great run that they had in OKC. But as always, we're going to talk some Florida football. Some news that have happened over the past couple weeks. Nick was gone last week for the first regional. And Nick, you're on the road again, my friend.
A little road warrior action. Yeah.
Good thing you got that Tesla.
Yeah, it'll be my first road trip with the Tesla. We'll see how it goes. I get to drive through the worst state in the country to drive through, Georgia, today. So thank you, Elon. We'll be using a lot of your computer technology to drive. And I will send any tickets I get directly to Tesla headquarters in Austin.
That'll work. That'll work. But obviously a really fun time, especially this past week, to see the baseball team and the softball team make their runs. And obviously we've been tracking this football program as well. They had SEC spring meetings last week. A lot of the talk coming out of that was based around the Rashada lawsuit. We can cover some of that ground, but I do want to get into some of the last couple days and some of the conversations that we've been having at Gators Online. You know, On3, Nick put out a graphic this week of Florida's schedule, asking fans, hey, what would you be happy with in terms of a number of wins? You wrote a column about it this week at GatorsOnline.com. And then we also got to see the Football Power Index from ESPN come out this week, and it's their first edition of it. And for those that don't know, the Football Power Index is a measure of team strength, meant to be the best predictor of a team's performance for the upcoming season or the rest of the season. And it's based on simulations using the Football Power Index, results to date, and their remaining schedule. Now, speaking of schedules, it should come as a surprise to no one that the Football Power Index also said that the Gators have the toughest schedule in the country in 2024. But if you look at their Power Index, Nick, surprisingly, the Gators are not only a top 25 team, they're a top 20 team, according to the Football Power Index. Now, what does that mean? This is not like a preseason ranking from ESPN, but it does say that their system and their database sees some potential in the Gators and maybe more than I think folks realize. What was your reaction to that top 20 ranking when you saw it?
I almost think, I don't know the metrics that they use to come up with their FPI or how accurate it is. But if you're a Florida fan, you probably hope it's very accurate. But I think to me, it's probably coming, and we're so in it, and Gator fans are in it, and it's every day. You're in like a little bubble, a Florida bubble. But to me, and for those in the bubble, I think this is the most talented team Billy Napier's ever had. And going through the dozens and dozens of comments, because JD Piquel had, used our message board for one of his shows and to get like a sounding board. I think it comes down to, do you believe in the offensive line or do you not believe in the offensive line? Because I like Florida's running back room. With the addition of Elijah Badger, I think the receiver room is better, especially the top three guys. You've got Andy G, Aiden Mizell. Not to get too long-winded, I think the team is better. And if you believe in the offensive line, then those pieces can thrive. And if the offensive line struggles like it did last year, it doesn't matter if you have, I guess if you have Barry Sanders in the backfield, he's used to not playing behind a good offensive line and can make guys miss. But I mean, it's just such a key. You have to have good offensive line play. So for us that are in the thick of it, I think that's kind of what we're looking to. And can the offensive line take a step forward?
Yeah, because I don't think you're going to see any preseason publication have the Gators ranked as a preseason top 25.
Negative. No.
It's not going to happen.
Just the FPI.
Yeah, just so for the Football Power Index to indicate that or project that, it's kind of an outlier. Almost, it's like, what, you didn't expect to see that. You can dig a little bit into those projections some more, and we will here in a second. But I like the point that you make, Nick, because we know somebody that is also really high on this Florida Gators team from an analyst standpoint, and that's Cole Kublik. And he's probably, he probably has the best sense or feel or way to look at an offensive line among anybody. And he's a little bullish on this offensive line for the Gators, or at least some of the feedback that he's got from the staff. So, like you said, if you're buying stock into an improved offensive line, you might be behind the notion that the Gators could be a better team than folks expect, exceed their expectations. We know that Cole Kublik is one of those individuals that thinks highly of Florida. Now, it was interesting this week, Nick. Not everybody at ESPN agreed with their football power index ranking of the Gators. And, we wrote about that yesterday at Gators Online, but Mark Schlabach put out, ESPN had a story that said, hey, which teams is the football power index undervaluing? Which teams are they overvaluing? Mark actually wrote that he thought that Florida was being overvalued by this football power index. He basically points to their results the past 2 years, their schedule this year, which is a really tough slate. He writes, Gators lost tailback Trevor Etienne, who transferred to Georgia, leading receiver Ricky Pearsall, who left for the NFL. Graham Mertz was efficient his first season at Florida, but he was sacked 31 times behind a bad offensive line. Napier blew up his defensive coaching staff after the Gators ranked 78th in scoring defense, 71st in total defense. So he's not ready to buy stock yet, Nick, and he points right there to those offensive line numbers. And I think that they have to get better along both lines of scrimmage, honestly, because they didn't get pressure on the quarterback either, and that has to improve.
Yeah, it's and Florida's once again went back into the transfer portal for help on the defensive line. And I've said this a couple times, and I don't mean it as like a slight to the defensive line. I don't think there's like a first team All SEC guy. But I think you're 3 deep at every position. And if you can get 20 quality snaps and not ask somebody to have to play 35, 40 snaps, and you might be able to, or you might have to take some snaps off, some down reps if you're trying to make it through a 50 snap game. Hey, I just need you to go 100% 20, 25 times this game. That's it, because we got 3 other guys. We have 2 other guys. Everyone's going to play 20 snaps, 25 snaps. Just give me max effort. And I think that depth can help Florida's defensive line play better. I think Caleb Banks has gotten better, but it's just like we're just so in it, and we know these names, and we've seen them at practice and things like that. But yeah, to your point, Florida fans or other fan bases look at Florida and they're like, "Oh, that secondary stinks." And it's like, well, secondary had to cover for 7 seconds. It's tough to cover that long. So it's all tied together. On defense, if you're getting great pressure on the quarterback, your cornerbacks probably look really good. They don't have to cover for that long, or if they're getting their hands on balls that are thrown quickly and hastily. Yeah. So it's all tied together. But yeah, it's a line of scrimmage league. It's probably a line of scrimmage game, but certainly a line of scrimmage league in the SEC.
No doubt. And then just some more takeaways from that football power index. Again, even with that top 20 ranking, the FPI projects the Gators to finish with a win-loss record of 5.9 to 6.1. So they're basically saying that the Gators are going to go 6-6. In fact, a 58.2% chance of winning 6 games, according to the FPI. 0.7% chance of winning the conference. 8.3% chance of making the college football playoff. And some other low percentages as well. Nick, you did the story this week about what number would Florida fans be happy with? And like you wrote, it's kind of hard to put a number on it. It's really more about the results and the totality of what it looks like. What sense did you get from the feedback from your column? Obviously, what you saw on our message board when JD posted his thread, just from what you're seeing from fans.
Every game. You have to win every game, or there will be no happiness in this world, this dark, cruel world. I think some people agree with me. Like if Florida goes 9-3, I think everyone would be happy. But what if I told you those 3 losses are Miami, Florida State, UCF? Well, now you're probably a little less happy.
I mean, if they beat Georgia,
you're probably a little less happy. Yeah, but like that. But that's what I mean. But losing to Miami and UCF, you're like 2-2 to start the season.
Yeah. Can you see the light at the end of the tunnel?
Social media and the message board is firing Billy Napier with a 2-2 start, but you finished 7-1. There's so many different ways. Do you go to Jacksonville and Austin in back-to-back weeks and lose those games by a combined 10 points, 8 points, 7 points, or do you go and you lose to Georgia by 20 again? And you go to Texas and get blown out on the 40 acres. Can you go on the road? Wild concept for this program so far, but can you go on the road and win a game? Can you go to Knoxville and beat Tennessee? Can you get over the hump and beat Kentucky? Now, I think there's some non-negotiables, as I wrote on Wednesday. I think you have to have a winning record against the in-state opponents. I don't think you can go 0-3 against Miami, Florida State, and UCF.
Or 1-2.
And a couple of the or 1-2, and a couple of the fans I talked to said UCF beating UCF is non-negotiable. And I'm like, all right, but for the sake of the story, I'm just gonna say a winning record. You can drop 1-3. And listen, UCF's quarterback has already won in Gainesville. He's already led his team to a win in Ben Hill Griffin Stadium.
Less than a year ago.
Yeah, so as I'm doing this, I'm going through what teams did in the UCF brought 26 kids in the transfer portal. It's like a brand new team. A lot of Power 5 guys. Gus Malzahn's got probably his most talented group. And he has the actual quarterback that he would have created in EA College Football 25 in real life for his offense. So Florida needs to be ready for that game. But to me, there's not a magic number. It's what do you look like to earn the number that you end up with? Whether that's 6-6, 7-5, 8-4. I guess I will say there is a number, and it's over 5. You can't you can't have another season under 500. So
agreed.
There isn't a specific number; just has to be greater than 5.
What loss to an in-state team would bother Florida fans the most?
All of them. There's no clear answer. I mean,
I'm asking you for one.
There's no clear answer because you could say UCF because Florida fans feel like that is little brother. You should never lose to them. The Gasparilla Bowl doesn't count because no one cares about the Gasparilla Bowl. Sorry, I apologize to the Gasparilla Bowl committee. Tampa's beautiful.
It is.
No one cares. So that the last time Florida played UCF, they lost. Miami, people a little bit older than us, like we didn't grow up. I think this is going to be the 8th time in our lifetime, Zach, that Florida and Miami have played. And they used to play every single year. Now you'll get to play next year, so it's not like whoever wins this game gets bragging rights for the next decade. But it's a bitter, hated rivalry. It's 2 coaches hired in the same offseason, both under 500, both selling hope and positive trajectory to their fan bases. Good luck going door to door, knocking, selling that hope if you lose game 1. And Billy Napier in Florida doesn't have the same excuse that Mario Cristobal and the Canes have of, hey, we had to go on the road week 1 with a bunch of transfer portal players, and it was a hostile environment, tough to go on the road and win. You don't have that because you're playing in front of your home crowd, 3:30 ABC. Feels weird to say ABC. And then there has never been a single loss to Florida State that Florida fans have enjoyed or thought was okay. So that's my long-winded way of saying, Zach, that all of them. But I guess I would go with UCF, just because I don't know that Florida fans, you can reason or cope with a loss to Miami and FSU, and that people are probably, their ears are bleeding even listening to me say that. But like, I don't know that Florida fans would cope with a loss at UCF at all.
Yeah. We've heard now this from, I don't even know if we've talked to Billy about it. Correct me if I'm wrong, Nick, because maybe you guys spoke with him. I forget what speech that you went to, but you talked to him beforehand. But I know that he has talked to other folks about this and would be interested to get some actual comments from him on the record about it. But it sounds like he has told some people and has the sense that in some ways there are things about this 2024 schedule that he thinks is more advantageous to Florida than the last year's schedule. Opening up at home against Miami versus opening up on the road at Utah, getting Florida State without obviously their talented team, and obviously you got to go on the road, but it's still not going to be
Florida
the same.
State lost a metric ton of talent. I think they had 11 guys, 10 guys drafted.
Yes, and then obviously, you got to go on the road to Tennessee, but that's, they have a new quarterback, a really talented quarterback, but there's still some newness there. You get Kentucky at home. What do you make of that? Because you included that in your column, which is, is this schedule as difficult as it's being made out to be? I guess it's hard for us to really say that for sure until we get into the year and see what these teams actually look like and what their records are and what their production is.
Yeah, Florida only leaves the state 3 times. 9 of their 12 games are inside the state of Florida. You only get on 3 airplanes the entire season, which is crazy.
That's good for us.
Yeah, you get 2 first-year head coaches within their first 4 or 5 games. In Levy at Mississippi State and Elko at Texas A&M. You don't have Jordan Travis, who was in Mike Norvell's system since Mike Norvell created the system.
You don't play Missouri.
I'm gonna miss our trips to Como, Zach.
Well, they would have been coming here, but Missouri could be pretty damn good this year.
Yeah. You get Texas, you get Georgia, Ole Miss. Those are 3 playoff contenders. That's tough.
Yeah,
you get LSU. Draw. You get LSU at home instead of on the road, and it's an LSU team without the number 2 overall pick and his first round NFL receivers. I'm sure LSU will figure it out by the time they come to Gainesville. And even if they don't figure it out by the time they come to Gainesville, that game just gets weird. It doesn't matter who's good or who's bad in that game. It is concerning if you look at the Florida LSU rivalry. The run that LSU has been on is concerning. Of course, none of that matters when you get into the game, but since 2012, Florida's won 3 times, which is not great numbers for the rivalry. I think LSU had to vacate some wins in 13, 14, 15. Who cares? The NCAA is a sham. Wins aren't vacated. I was at those games. We saw them. And LSU's won 5 in a row. 5 in a row? Yeah, 5. But you get them at home. And Florida's been a much better team at home. So it's going to be a season, when you talk about making the Swamp a place fans fill up, make it hostile in a place that Florida needs to defend. this is a hallmark year for that.
Yeah.
Easy year to sell tickets with Miami and Texas A&M and the Lane train coming in November. That November schedule is brutal though, but yeah, to Billy's credit, I think I see where he's coming from, and I agree. And Scott Strickland got a lot of heat for what he said in Destin. And Scott said, like, listen, it's not about our schedule. He's probably been asked about the schedule 20 dozen times. When he scheduled UCF, they weren't a Power 5 team, and now they are in the Big 12. So I'm pulling up Scott's quote.
Can you remember any comments that Billy has made about the schedule? Like I literally looked this week through our transcripts and
so that what he said probably at every Gator caravan stop this spring. And we luckily had somebody in there one time who wanted to share their thoughts on the message board. So once they hit our message board, I was like, oh, I guess I'll talk about this since we try not to talk about it. They ask us, hey, can you not talk about what's in this meeting so that we can get people to come to the meetings? And this stuff isn't just, everywhere. And I was like, yeah, no problem. And then once somebody else leaked it all, I'm just reporting on the leaks.
Yeah. We just don't shoot the messenger. The message has already been out there.
Don't shoot the whistleblower. I'm just reporting on who whistle blew.
Yes.
But Scott Strickland was asked about it. He said, this season is not about our schedule. It's about the Gators. And if the Gators are being the Gators, we're going to be okay. I would argue that if the Gators had looked like the 90s and mid-2000s Gators, we wouldn't be talking about the schedule being tough. It would be, oh, man, Mike Elko has to go and host Florida in his first year. That sucks. Damn, Jeff Lebby has to take his football team or has to host. Mike Elko has to come to Gainesville to play the Gators. That's tough. Like, man, Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss might be playoff contenders, but they have to go to Gainesville and play late.
And that could ruin their season. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what, if Florida had looked competent the last 3 years, that might be the conversation we're having. But the Gators, to kind of push back against Scott's point a little bit, have not looked like the Gators, or have looked like the Gators that we've kind of come to get used to, that aren't the Gators that we remember, or the Gators we would like to cover.
But you know how it is, Nick. Scott can't say anything that's a little bit off, or boy, they're going to jump on. Scott
can't say the weather's nice.
He can't breathe wrong.
He can't breathe right. He can't say that, man, it could be 75, sunny, not a cloud in the sky, and Scott go, it's a nice day. And Florida fans would go, no, it's not. Ain't nothing good about this day, Scott. That's what they would say. So, I get what Scott's saying. Like, yeah, if the Gators take care, if the Gators are playing the brand of Gator football that probably made a lot of people fall in love with Florida football, then we're having a different conversation about this team. I will say, like, privately, Billy Napier loves his football team, thinks they're really good. I think it's the best roster they've ever had under him. It doesn't mean the schedule is easy.
Oh, man. Speaking of, oh, no, where is it at? Speaking of Scott Strickland, did you see the tweet from Kendall Rogers, Nicholas?
Oh, and because of the time of the year it is for baseball, I'm dialed into Kendall Rogers' Twitter account too.
Yeah. I'm trying to find it, but the managing editor of D1 Baseball basically took a shot at the Gators after they made the NCAA baseball tournament, and basically insinuated that the fact that their AD was on the committee, factored into the Gators making it. And I tell you what, boy, as soon as the Gators won that Stillwater Regional Florida fans had the receipts and they brought him out. And that was pretty funny to see him get trolled on Twitter like that.
Yeah, it's interesting because we talked about this a little bit when people were like, "Hey, what are you guys not telling us?" Because the national media is being really nice to Florida and really high on Florida. I'm like, well, one of the national media was just had the red carpet rolled out. Florida has a 23-year-old Graham Mertz in this year will turn 24 playing college football, quarterback, and you start to talk to the people inside Florida, and they're talking so highly that this happens. Kendall is he is critical of teams. When you're a national guy, you can kind of just like stop talking about Florida if they're 4-7 going into the last week, and you don't really get sound bites of trashing teams. So you only have sound bites of saying nice things. But there's really two sites that really cover baseball, and they have to cover it, and they try to grow the sport and talk about all these teams. So college baseball, and if you pull up Kendall's Twitter account, he has that hat that his wife made that says "My husband hates your team." That has become like the running joke that Kendall hates every team. He's never liked a team, and except for your rival's team. Then he loves your rival's team because he hates your team. So he loves lots of teams apparently, but hates every team.
That makes sense. I found the tweet. There will be 11 SEC teams in the NCAA baseball tournament with Florida in the field. The Gators, of course, have an AD on the committee.
And a former Gator, Linda Teeler, running the NCAA championship division of late.
Yeah. And then the quote tweets. He sent out that tweet on May 27th, and then on June 3rd and June 4th, man, Florida fans just came after him. If you find that tweet, pull up the quote tweets. It's great. Someone goes, how many home runs did our AD hit in Stillwater?
Scott? Might be.
That was like one of the unique instances where all of Gator Nation got behind Scott Strickland on Twitter. They said, "Whoa, hold on. We're not going to let this cheap shot. You're not even making it at our AD."
Hey, you can't hate on Scott Strickland. Only we can.
Yes, that's pretty much.
That was the rallying cry.
That was it.
Listen,
so, yeah.
I think Florida. Well, we don't need to get into baseball this early. We saved.
Yeah, we're a little early. We'll save.
Sorry, you got me going.
All right, one more football topic, and then we'll get into baseball. Before we do that, I want to give a shout out to myperfectfranchise.net. If you're ready to leave the corporate rat race for the American dream, looking for a side hustle while working your current job, wanting to diversify, build wealth, and or leave a legacy, Andy can help. He's a franchise consultant as well as a franchise owner and helps people find franchises that fit their skill sets, financial requirements, time to commit, and more. His services are 100% free, and he's here to help if you have any questions about business ownership. You can learn more and contact Andy anytime at myperfectfranchise.net or calling or texting him at 404-973-9901. Now, Nick, we had some questions, or I had some questions this week about DJ Lagway, and obviously he was in the news this past week for the Gatorade commercial, and which was really cool. The first NIL athlete to appear in a national commercial for Gatorade because of that, affiliation with Florida. I think that fans like to see that has kind of come to fruition, and the Gators can lean on that, Gatorade relationship to have something like this. And it just, creates even more hype around DJ and excitement for what he's going to, be and certainly what he can do as a freshman. And, we were asked, Nick, how many snaps we think DJ is going to get this year, and more specifically, could he have more or less than 100? And I started digging in on that and kind of looking at obviously the last 2 years, and seeing how Napier has used his backup quarterbacks. And it's interesting to really think about, Nick, because, obviously you want to get him developed. He's going to be your starting quarterback for 2025. You don't want to force feed him, though. Every time you take him off or every time you put him in, you're taking Graham Mertz off the field. But Napier has basically alluded to that there will be some packages and some things that they could potentially, some wrinkles was the word that he used, that they can use with DJ and make Florida more difficult to defend on offense. Now, again, they're going to have to take Mertz off the field whenever they put him in the game, and that's something that Napier is cognizant of. I think that he knows that he needs to develop Lagway, but at the same time, you got to roll with your starter. So 100 snaps, more or less. If we look at the last 2 years, Florida's backup quarterbacks, Jalen Kitna, Max Brown actually surpassed 100 snaps last year, but that wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for a season-ending injury to Graham Mertz. Lagway is in a little bit different category than the last two backup quarterbacks because he's, one, way more talented, and he's going to be hard to keep off the field. And he does some things that the starter can't do from a dual threat aspect that would just make more sense to get him on the field and get him more opportunities. We think maybe he could play, Nick, 20, 30, maybe even 40 snaps against Samford. Maybe they blow him out by the second quarter and he gets halfway to 100.
We've done this with Samford, and Emory Jones broke career single game records.
That's right.
That's right. Way, while Samford scored half 100.
So put some respect on Samford's name. Nick is telling me.
Damn respect on Samford's name, Zach. But yeah, that would be a game where you would hope DJ would get extended playing time. Yes.
Yeah, and you look at years past, those type of games. I mean, those are the opportunities. Jalen Kitna had 29 snaps against Eastern Washington in that game. Max Brown had 14 against McNeese. Again, a lot of that depends, but like Nick, in a regular game, SEC competition, close game that is competitive throughout all four quarters. Right now, as we sit here on June, like, what do you expect to see from DJ in terms of series and snaps that he gets in a competitive game? Like, obviously, he's going to get a chance to play mop-up duty. He'll get a chance to play if Florida's blowing out a team. But like I think me and you, and I'm sure a lot of others anticipate that he will get more than that. Like he'll get a little bit of what we saw with AR right in 2021, where he gets some plays and he gets some opportunities. Like, but I do think, and Nick, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I also think that there's going to be some games where DJ might not play at all. There might be some games where he doesn't take a snap, depending on. What was that?
He said, way to make the people feel good.
Right. I mean, right. But then there's other games where you might have
the number down. Break the number down. It's only 8 snaps, 8.3 repeating snaps to get to 100.
And then if he plays like I said, 30 or 40 in one of the games, then that brings that number down even more. If Florida takes care of business against one of these teams and happens to be up in the fourth quarter, besides just the Samford game, that could give him more snaps. I'm curious, though, of like, what is that going to look like once they get into SEC play in terms of his usage? Yeah. How Tebow-like in 2006, Anthony Richardson-like in 2001 is it? And that's going to be fascinating to see.
It'll be interesting because 8 snaps a game does not seem like a lot, but like you said, that Florida believes in Graham Mertz, and I think Graham Mertz has earned that belief. It's not unfounded belief. So 8 doesn't seem like a lot, and you would say, yeah, he'll get over 100, but I don't know that he will, because to get DJ on the field, you are taking off your 23-year-old quarterback who's in the second year of the system. But Florida has in the spring put in, I guess put in is not the right word. Like Florida had Billy Napier had Levi Lewis at UL, who was a very talented runner. So they have stuff in the playbook already that they just don't use because that's not Graham Mertz's skill set. So it's not that they're putting stuff in. It's kind of like, hey, we're going back to a chapter that we haven't read in a while in our favorite book. We're in the Bible and we haven't read, Acts in a while. Let's go to Acts and get some lessons from here. So it'll be interesting because I think you have DJ that can do so many different things than Graham Mertz can do on the field. He is still a freshman, but I think to not play him is a disservice. Like if DJ Lagway is the player we think he's going to be, he's not going to be here 4 years. So don't think, we redshirted him, so we got him for 3. No, you have him for 3, including this year. So there's no point in not playing him, but you're also, like you said, to your point, you're taking Graham Mertz off the field to get DJ Lagway on the field.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what that looks like. But I do think that
and here's something for you too, Zach. At what point, at what record early in the season do fans say, Graham, we love you, thank you, but we're 4-4? And it's about to get weird. Let's put DJ in. Or do you not want to put DJ in if the team is 4-4? And then you put DJ in to play against like Georgia, Texas, Ole Miss, LSU, Florida State.
Yeah.
And when Dan
that's worst case scenario.
That's like when Dan was like, yeah, I hear you guys. You want Anthony to start? Cool. He's starting against the Georgia team that's going to have 8 guys drafted from their defense. And you're like, no, not this week, Dan. Every other week, but not this week. And Dan goes, no, this is what you wanted. Have at it. And you're like, not this week, Dan. No.
I do feel like there were times, man, that he just made decisions to just stick it to fans and media.
It was just like, oh, this is what you guys have been asking for.
Oh, you guys want double-digit carries from Dameon Pierce? Watch this.
4,
6, 5.
Dameon Pierce will play 3 series each half. Enjoy it. Y'all have a good Saturday.
That was interesting. But no, man, it's fascinating because, at the end of the day, though, regardless of what it looks like, how many snaps he plays, how involved he is, I do think that everybody involved will have the right attitude and approach about it. Like, I don't think that it will ever become an issue where Graham gets upset about DJ's usage, DJ gets upset about his lack of usage or Graham's usage. That doesn't mean that he won't want to play more and want to see the field and get more opportunities, but like he understands what he's walking into. You are coming to learn from a 6-year senior. You're coming to get your feet wet, get experience, possibly throw some touchdowns and make some awesome runs and contribute in some games. But like, I think everybody knows their role coming into it, and that should make this okay. Like it made things okay throughout the Leak and Tebow year that they were going back and forth. I will say, I don't think that Emory and Anthony Richardson that didn't go as smoothly as but that was more because Emory wasn't performing up to par and fans wanted to see more of AR. But during the 06 season, obviously Leak was playing at a national championship level, and then Tebow was coming in and doing his thing. So everybody was happy. Although, you saw the Swamp Kings documentary. There were the times when Leak came on the field and they brought Tebow off and he heard some boos. I don't think we'll see that with Graham Mertz this year. I hope for his sake not. But like I do think that there will be a good balance there that they can strike. And that Graham, I think he should play well enough and perform well enough that doesn't become a conversation like it did in 2021, because it got to a point where Emory was struggling so much that it was like, okay, it's time. Remember, they asked Mullen about a quarterback change like after the second game, and he went off on Cole Kublik in his post game interview. Quarterback controversy. What are you talking about? And then 4 weeks later, he's starting Anthony Richardson against Georgia. I don't think we'll get there this year. I think Graham's going to play well enough and Florida will do well enough that your worst case scenario that you just mentioned won't happen. But it will be a storyline to follow throughout the season. There's no doubt.
Yeah, it's one that, like, from afar, I was watching last year at Tennessee and remember asking our friends over at VolQuest, like, hey, because I think we both picked Florida to beat Tennessee. I'm like, hey, if Florida beats Tennessee and like things start going sideways, they were like, oh no, the fans will want Nico to play if they lose to Florida and things go sideways, and like the screams for Nico will get loud. So I was just kind of thinking, putting that in like Florida's terms, because you're in a very similar situation. You have a 6-year quarterback and a really, really talented freshman, highly touted, behind him. Graham Mertz is not the future of the Florida Gators. He literally has 12, 13, 16. If Florida makes a run in the college football playoff, 17. I don't know how many games you would have now. But he only has 1 year. So you have an interesting situation where the best option to win games for your team right now isn't part of your future after this season. And the future is already on campus. So it's a delicate balance of winning games now, and Graham Mertz gives you the best chance to win games right now, while also building for the future and getting DJ Lagway the experience he needs so that when he goes to Coral Gables to start the 2025 season, it's not like, oh shoot, we get on a plane and play football games. We only didn't do that much last year. Like, he needs to play in Austin. He needs to play in Starkville. He needs to play probably on the road in Tallahassee. He needs to play in those games and play in big games. And that's the other conundrum is, if we're in big games, when do we get DJ Lagway in against Georgia? When do we get DJ Lagway in against Texas A&M and LSU and on the road at Tennessee? Like, when do you do these things? At what point of the game? And I think it's probably better to manufacture those early, because if you don't have it manufactured and written into the script early, you get into the flow of the game and it's like, hey, listen, we can't make a move right now. We can't make a change right now. It's 17-17 in the third quarter. Like, this is not the time to start fiddling and tinkering and trying new things.
Yeah. Oh, it's going to be fascinating. Definitely something to look forward to this year, and we'll continue to monitor it. And what do you think DJ Lagway's rating is going to be in EA Sports, Nick?
I think he's got to be in the 80s or very high 70s. So I'm going to go between 78 and 82. Give myself like a.
Do you think most Florida fans, when they get the game and they start,
they will say he's ranked too low?
Well, no.
Oh, sorry.
Are they gonna start Graham, or are they gonna start DJ?
I think Graham has earned the start, but haven't got my hands on the game yet. Like, a mobile quarterback in these games is a cheat code.
Yeah.
And I think Graham would beat me in a race, but I also wouldn't call either of us mobile quarterbacks.
So if you're the head coach, offensive coordinator, how are you using DJ Lagway in your dynasty mode for 2024, Nick?
We're running the football with DJ, baby. The other thing that's part of the game too, that's interesting and that you'll definitely see, they've built into the code, hey, the 6-year senior quarterback is going to be better. When you pull up and you show the play art on the road, those lines might not be straight. They might be squiggling. You might not know what one guy's is for the play because it's trying to simulate an 18-year-old kid on the road in Neyland Stadium for the first time versus a quarterback who has played 50-plus games over the course of his career.
Played in the big house.
Who has that experience. So that's another thing. Like, I don't know if how many Florida fans will want to throw DJ Lagway in there right away when you have Graham Mertz and the way that video games are structured, or that this video game specifically will be structured. But my goodness, don't come calling when the game comes out. I'm busy.
Oh, man. I think that would be the most requested PTO day in the history of mankind. When that game comes out. Well, we've reached the last 5 minutes of the show, Nicholas, and it is time for some baseball talk.
Yes,
well-deserved baseball talk. Before we do that, I want to give a shout-out to Prairie Dental Center. The doctor is a UF grad who's practiced in Gainesville for 3 decades and developed a deep understanding of how to diagnose and treat various dental problems, along with advanced skills and knowledge to provide better care to his patients. If you're having dental concerns or just need a cleaning, Prairie Dental Center offers a wide range of options to meet your needs. Give their office a call at 352-373-3431. Tell them Gators Online sent you, and your new patient exam will be free. Well, we did not have a show last week because Nick was sick, and also covering regional that I don't know that many people expected Florida to get out of. But man, what a run for the Gators in Oklahoma, and both Gators. They had the one over there and the Gators over in OKC getting it done. The softball team, but Nick, they put it together. They took their lumps early in the season. Their pitching staff is improving, and now they found themselves in the super regional at Clemson. What are your thoughts now, kind of a few days removed on this run that's Florida's made so far in the postseason?
Yeah, I think Florida, it's never been a question of the talent. I took some heat, and I get it. I said this is a really talented Florida team. And then they hadn't won more than 2 games in a row since February. So when Florida lost that second game to Oklahoma State, I thought, man, with the injuries to Christian Rodriguez, Caden McDonald, freshmen who haven't pitched at all this year, with the injury to Alex Philpott, I don't know that they have the pitching to come out of this. It's going to take a hero performance. And you got hero performances from Brandon Neely, 5 1/3, 11 strikeouts. You got a hero performance from Fisher Jameson, retired all 10 batters he faced on Monday in the elimination game. And now you get to Clemson, and Clemson's kind of built like Florida. They have a really deep lineup that can hit the ball out of the yard, and a pitching staff who, if you talk to their fan base, doesn't think that they're very good. So this might be a firework kind of weekend in Clemson, South Carolina, where big lead changes, big scores. And if you're talking to me about a game with this Florida lineup who can mash, a game where, hey, might be a bunch of lead changes and a bunch of home runs, I'm like, I like Florida. I give Florida a puncher's chance in any game that goes like that. But they're gonna need a quality start from Liam Peterson, who's been their best pitcher down the stretch on Friday or on Saturday. The season series starts Saturday, and then you need a quality start from Jack on Sunday to save the pitching staff. They had a great weekend in Stillwater, but you don't want to continue giving them situations where you're like, hey, it's the 5th inning, and we can't let them other teams score another run the rest of the game, or else we'll lose. So go out there, kid, have fun. But yeah, I'm excited to get on the road. Not excited to drive through Georgia, but excited to see Clemson. Send your recommendations if you're reading this. I'll be there until Monday.
Set your cruise when you're going through Georgia, my friend.
Listen, we're going full self-driving.
Well, drive safe. Enjoy Clemson. First time there, I presume?
First time. I got to go touch Howard's Rock, run down the The hill like Dabo.
You gotta walk around Sully's old stomping grounds.
Kevin O'Sullivan, coach, got his coaching career started at Clemson, and David Kopp, Florida's pitching coach, played for Kevin O'Sullivan, pitched for Kevin O'Sullivan at Clemson. So,
wow,
a couple Clemson ties on the Florida staff. Yep,
no doubt. Well, make sure you guys are following all of Nick's coverage at GatorsOnline.com, as well as what will be another big recruiting weekend in Gainesville. We previewed and recapped the last one. We'll have another preview for this weekend coming up on the Geo Recruiting Show. And between Nick's coverage out in Clemson, the recruiting going down, going to be a lot happening at Gators Online. So if you're not subscribed, when you go to sign up, we got a promo code right now that you can use, which is UF1. If you punch that in when you go to sign up, you get 2 months of access for just $1. So make sure that you do that to keep up with all of Nick's coverage, all of the recruiting coverage, and everything that we got coming up this summer. We'll be back next week with a new show to see how the Gators did in Clemson and the latest on the football program as well. For Nick Del Torre, I'm Zach Albaverdi. We'll see you.